Hi, welcome to Neighborhood News. As the temperatures dip, many of our clients at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center are often faced with a situation of heat or eat. They're not able to pay for their heating bill, and fortunately, there are many fuel assistance programs that help. Today on our show, we have the Director of Energy Programs, Tasheenah Brown, from Operation Fuel. Welcome, Tasheenah.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on. So we are an intake site at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, which means that we have a caseworker who will meet with someone who is having trouble paying for their heat or electricity, and you, Operation Fuel, will actually provide the funds. So I was wondering, could you kind of give me a history of Operation Fuel?
Sure. So Operation Fuel was established in 1977 by then Governor Ella Grasso and Father Thomas Lynch. So in the 70s, there was an uptick in home energy cost as there was, this was the result of a oil embargo placed worldwide. And so what folks were seeing is that despite some of the best efforts of the federal and state energy assistance programs, it just wasn't enough to help, and specifically to help some of the working, what we might call the working poor, folks who kind of fall outside of the eligibility guidelines for other programs, but still struggling to make ends meet. So Ella Grasso and Father Thomas Lynch came together with some industry partners, so utilities, banking folks, insurance leaders, to come together to establish an immediate response program and called it Operation Fuel.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about funding for the Operation Fuel. I know with my electric bill, there's a little checkoff would that money go to Operation Fuel?
It does. So it's called Add a Dollar.
Okay.
So what you can do is check that box to add a dollar to what you're already paying in your electric bill, and that goes to Operation Fuel, and 100% of those dollars raised go to in the form of energy assistance payments.
Wow, so 100% goes to keep the heat on for people. And if I wanted to give more than $1, could I?
You certainly could.
Okay. So you receive funding through donations. Do you have any state or federal assistance?
We get majority of our funds come from the Add a Dollar, in addition to what's called the systems benefit charge. So you have that option on your bill to add $1, but there's also a portion on that bill that's called the systems benefit charge, and that goes to several energy assistance initiatives, and so one of them being Operation Fuel.
Okay, so if any of our viewers were interested in pursuing Operation Fuel, well, I guess I would ask, number one, what are your income guidelines?
So our income guidelines, and this is a strategic decision that we decided to make a couple of years ago, is to increase them to 75% of the state median income. So what that looks like is a one-person household could earn up to about $45,000 annually, and a family of four could earn up to $86,000. And that may seem like a lot to some, but it certainly isn't when you're trying to balance, providing food for your family. All of those expenses add up, and if you're a working family of two and you have two small children, you know that those expenses certainly get up there, and being able to heat your home shouldn't be one of the choices you have to make.
And you also had mentioned that there are other heating assistance programs where it's not 75% of the state median, it's much lower than that.
60%.
60, okay.
Excuse me, and so we do go higher so that we can provide assistance to folks who fall in between that gap. And so we're fortunate to be able to do that and to work in partnership with those other energy assistance programs, so that if the same intake worker is processing an application for another program, they can say that they may be more qualified, or the Operation Fuel program may make the most sense for this specific family.
Right. And now, when we talk about heating, I know that homes are heated differently. So what kind of heating is covered?
Whichever the family uses to heat their home. So we provide assistance for both primary and secondary sources of heating. So if you heat your home with oil, but you also need electricity to run your refrigerator, we can provide assistance for that as well. So again, that partnership with some of those other programs. So if you went to TVCCA, you might be able to receive assistance with your oil delivery, but then that same intake worker could be able to help you submit an Operation Fuel application for your electric bill as well.
So what kind of incidents, or because you're the person who's actually looking at these applications all the time, right?
We have a small team, a program staff of 3, and we each look at applications.
Wow, staff of 3. And how many homes did you help last year?
About between 6,000 and 7,000. I'm sorry, about 5,000 and 6,000.
That's crazy. But 6,000 homes were helped, and you had a staff of 3 doing that?
A program staff of 3.
That's crazy. So you're very busy. And year-round? Is this a year-round program?
Yes, so 10 months of the year. So we provide assistance in the summer months, in the summer and fall months for electric and gas utilities specifically. But as it dips, it's cold now. So we provide assistance. We start authorizing oil deliveries sooner if the temperature calls for it. Okay. But primarily, it's beginning in December through May, we will be open again and authorizing deliveries and utility assistance of any kind that the customer uses.
So you talked about summer months and keeping on air conditioning, for example. Why would someone need air conditioning?
Many reasons. So a lot of there may be a misconception that air conditioning is a luxury. For many people, it's a health necessity. So being able to, if you have a heart condition, it's absolutely not feasible for you to sit in a hot home. Right. You need to have that air conditioner going so that you can stay cool and comfortable and healthy and alive.
That's right. We've seen instances where we have people with asthma, or we might have someone who, I remember just recently had someone with a little baby who needed certain medicine that they needed the refrigerator on.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are things that are just basic necessities that you're helping to keep people alive.
Absolutely. So what's the first thing that we all do when we come home is turn on the lights.
You're right.
And to think that is not a necessity for all of us.
That's right.
And then you may open the refrigerator. So we talk about heating or eating, but if you can't keep your refrigerator on, you're not able to keep food cold. And then you may be going and getting takeout for your family, which has a whole nother slew of consequences. And so really energy is as basic as it gets.
It really is. And I think all of us have seen, by losing power, it seems like all of us have lost power recently, and how quickly your house gets cold.
Sure.
Even in September, when you wouldn't think that it would be cold. If it is, I mean, you get that draft, and it's very hard to get rid of it.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about people who would need help. Are many of them working?
Most majority of folks are working, but it's just not enough to get by. So we most of the folks that we're seeing are working families. They're veterans, they're seniors. They've worked all their lives, and it's our responsibility to do right by folks and making sure that they have the basics at a minimum.
Right. And I know that in addition to the heating, you also have a water program. Can you explain that?
Sure, we do. So currently we have a partnership with the MDC, which is a Hartford municipal water company. We are able to provide grants for water assistance to their customers, and they recently provided a customer assistance program, so it works a lot just like the Add a Dollar program, so folks can check a box on their MDC bill, and those monies go right back into providing water assistance. We are working really diligently to expand our water partnerships and to come into all corners of the state so that we can provide water assistance to anyone.
Because Operation Fuel does cover the entire state?
We are statewide.
Okay. And what about your homeless prevention program?
So most of our other programs, so our utility, our energy assistance, so providing that deliverable fuel or that electric or gas payment can go up to $500. But if there is a household that is at risk of homelessness, then we can provide a grant of up to $1,000 to help them with that, with a utility arrearage that they might have. So if staying in the home if you have a past utility bill, and many cases having access to utilities is a stipulation in your lease.
Oh, right.
And so you need to have electricity or
Right.
gas in your home, and if that bill has become a burden on your household and you're not able to sustain that, we can provide a grant of up to $1,000 to make sure that you're able to safely remain in your home.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is like if someone had a lease and it said you are required to keep on your electricity, I can't keep it on, and in addition, I'm now going to lose my home.
That's exactly right.
Wow, wow, okay. And then do you have one more program?
We do. We have our home system repair and replacement program, and so we partner with with the community action agencies across the state. So TVCCA being the one in this specific area, can help folks apply for an Operation Fuel grant that allows you to repair, replace your home heating system. So whether that's a furnace or a boiler, or even a water heater. So that we're able to provide that a one-time grant of up to $5,000.
So what do you have to show in order to become eligible for that program?
Our income guidelines are the same.
The same.
The 75%, but there is, it's a lengthy application because we want to make sure that the vendors are going out to the home and assessing the right equipment that your home needs for this replacement.
Okay, so you have to show that. I've had someone come out, they're telling me, no?
So the Community Action Agency will work with the family to identify those vendors.
Okay, okay, and then the vendor will come out and say you need a new water heater, for example.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
So in many cases, we see folks who are getting their clean, tune, and test done for the year, and then the vendor comes out and their system is not efficient, not necessarily efficient, but it's broken, and it becomes a hazard on the home.
Right.
So then they red tag it. So then what do? Because they can't get oil delivered because their furnace is no longer able to function, and they need it replaced, but they don't have the funds. So then that's when we can step in to help with that grant.
Okay, has that been in existence for a long time, that program?
It is not that long, I'd say in the last 5 years or so.
Okay.
But it's been really successful. Unfortunately, the funds go rather quickly because of the need is so high.
Right.
But we are doing everything that we can to make sure that folks know about this program and are able to access it.
So if someone needed to be part of that program, because I know I don't believe we do that at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, they would have to go to TVCCA, which is Thames Valley Coalition for Community Action, and they're located in New London or Norwich. And so you would go there and you would explain your situation.
Correct.
So with all of these programs, do you have to go to an intake site like the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, or could you apply on your own?
For now, we are working with more than 100 intake sites, or what we call fuel banks, across the state.
Okay.
But we are actively working to create what we're going to call our online intake, so that we understand that transportation is challenging, arranging for childcare so that you can, get an appointment.
Right.
Booking an appointment can be, all of these are barriers.
That's right.
So one of our main priorities is to create this online application so that folks will be able to submit them directly to us without having to make an appointment at a site.
Okay, so that's down the road.
A little bit.
It sounds like it's also a little bit complicated, so it helps to have a caseworker who's knowledgeable. I mean, we've done trainings at the PNC where I've sat in where you explain to the caseworker, and it's complicated. It's a lot. But the reason I wanted to have you on is I just wanted the folks at home to know that if they're in a situation where they're struggling to keep on the heat or just to make ends meet, there are programs like Operation Fuel, and it's not always known to everyone.
Absolutely.
Or like you explained, so many people are working or are suddenly in a situation where they have never had to go to an agency like yours, and so they're really not sure where to go to. So knowing the intake sites that you have, What kind of places are intake sites?
Sure. So they could be your local social services department in your town.
Okay.
It could be a church. It could Norwich Public Utilities is an intake site.
Okay.
So it really just depends. You can always visit our website to find. We call it our Fuel Bank Finder. So you're able to
Okay.
type in the town that you live in, and it's going to direct you to the appropriate town for you to visit or the appropriate fuel bank.
Okay.
But in this area specifically, there's the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, of course, TVCCA, Stonington Human Services. And the beauty of this is that we are a small team, we are a small organization based in Hartford, but having these network partnerships has really enabled us to have this outreach. And even when the online option becomes available, if folks need those wraparound services, it shouldn't prevent them from walking into the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. The online option is for folks who that may make sense for them based on their circumstances, but our partnerships across the state are critical in making sure that folks get access to everything that they might need.
That's true. You just used a good word of wraparound services, and that means to people who haven't heard that before, that when you go to a social service agency like the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, the caseworker will hear your story and say, okay, you need electricity, we can go for this source. You need rental assistance, we can go to that source.
Right.
And it's someone who's knowledgeable in the different areas. And like you mentioned, veterans, for example. Veterans sometimes have their own resources that non-veterans don't. And that's why caseworkers can be so helpful.
Absolutely.
So what do you find to be the biggest challenges to Operation Fuel?
I would say that our biggest challenge is making sure that we have enough funding resources to meet the need. We are only able to provide assistance for however many funds that we have. We are providing grants, and we're directly paying utilities or vendors or whomever that might be to bill payment assistance. That's essentially what we're doing. And so if we don't have funds, then we end up not being able to provide grants.
Right.
So in some cases, we have to close some of our sites down sooner than we would like to as a result of not being able to, there's an allocation and then it's gone.
Right.
And it's going to the right place, obviously, but we're not able to sustain and making sure that we're able to meet all of the needs that exist across our state.
So I know that we could just check a box and we'd be able to donate. Do you have any fundraisers coming up?
We do.
Okay.
So in January, on January 24th and 25th, there's going to be our Ice House.
Okay.
This is the second time that we will be hosting an Ice House event. So it's literally an ice house. So folks can come down to the old State House in Hartford, and so you can experience what it might be like to be cold, and if you're there with us in the evening, it's dark. So making sure that you understand the impacts that it may have on a household to be, cold and in the dark during the winter months.
Wow. How do you make an ice house?
We actually do have a partner that builds it out of bricks. It's really quite beautiful.
How long does it take to make it?
So last year it took about, I want to say they were there overnight.
Oh, wow. I've only heard about it like in Montreal. I know people who've been, I've never been to an ice house. That sounds really fun.
It's beautiful.
That sounds great. Now, Tasheenah, I always ask everyone on the show their own personal story. So how did you end up at Operation Fuel?
So I would say, previously I worked with United Way in Hartford, and I managed their financial stability programs there, VITA, you might be familiar with. But what really drew me to Operation Fuel is you just don't get more basic than energy. You need it to operate a refrigerator. You need it to power that medical equipment. What specifically attracted me to Operation Fuel is its commitment to making that responding to the immediate need, but also how do we help move the needle forward on a larger scale. So doing kind of both the short-term and the long-term goals. So responding with energy payments, responding with keeping folks warm in their home, but also doing the work on the advocacy end and making sure that our policymakers understand the importance of what families are experiencing.
And so before you were with Operation Fuel, you were with United Way, so you were with nonprofits. What made you want to work for nonprofits?
I have always worked with nonprofits. It's really means a lot to me that we are providing assistance to folks with dignity, and that we're making sure that we are understanding that providing assistance to folks is an investment in our neighbors and in our community. It's not, it's my belief that it's not charity, it's not a handout, it's what we are expected to do to make sure that we are providing folks with what is needed, and that we would get that same treatment and respect in return.
I completely agree with you. We see it all the time where maybe one day you're the person checking off the box, helping someone to get heat, and then another day someone's checking off that box for you.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is with dignity, and it's not perceived as charity, it's neighbors helping neighbors.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, I can say you're doing wonderful work at Operation Fuel. You're so fast in getting, you really are, in getting the turnaround. When I heard that you only had a staff of 3, I couldn't believe it, because my office is sending off those applications, and you're doing a terrific job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all that you do, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
That's it. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll have someone else from our community talking about all the good work that's being done for our neighbors in need. Thanks for joining us.